Hey, music fans, welcome to SoundLab Studios. We are restarting an old series that we had started before, kind of inspired by. Oh, there's my roommate Tyler. Inspired by Briar's Music Showcase. He's doing his top five albums of every year in the '70s right now, and so that kind of made me want to re-pick up the Album of the Year series. Except Briar, now we are going to be doing it more like you're doing it. We're going to do our top five albums instead of our top three. And instead of spending a bunch of time talking about honorable mentions, we'll just kind of list just the names of them. But
Yeah.
top five albums of the 1970s. So we're restarting our album of the year in the 1970s. We thought, let's go ahead and go back to 1970. Once we get to 1979, we might go back and redo the 60s, or we might go on to the early 80s. We'll have to see. But for now, we're going to go through the 1970s because that's a really great decade. We already 1970 to 1973, but honestly, my lists have changed so much, even just in the 2 or 3 months since we last video. I thought, let's just go ahead and restart over.
Yeah, me too. My number one is definitely different from what it was before.
Definitely. And of course, if you have not watched our Album of the Year series before, we have Nick from Townsend 909 joining here, but he's always on the channel, so we gotta come to expect that he's gonna be here. And he always provides really great information about his favorite albums. Big fan of The Who, big fan of The Hollies. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. What we're going to do, we're going to alternate. Number five, four, three, two, one. Give some quick honorable mentions. Sorry, five, four, three, two. Quick honorable mentions, and then the album of the year for 1970. So let's go ahead and get going with number five.
My number five is an album I just recently listened to. It's by a band called Badfinger, and they were one of the first bands to join the Apple label, and that's going to be the No Dice album.
Hmm.
Amazing album. Every song on this album is really good. It does have two songs that decently popular, no matter what. And Without You, those songs are great. But the whole album's really good. I Can't Take It, I Don't Mind, Love Me Do. It's not a Beatle cover, but it just happens to be a song called Love Me Do. Uh, Bloodwin, I don't Bloodwin.
Bloodwin? Huh.
We, it's probably my favorite song on the album. Better Days, It Had to Be, What For John, Believe Me, and Work for the Dark. And every song on this album is great. It's my favorite Badfinger album. Definitely deserves a place on the list.
My number five album of 1970 is Let It Be by the Beatles, their final studio album. And I feel more like Abbey Road was the conclusion, and this is kind of like the epilogue to the Beatles. You got some real classic songs on here. You got some studio banter. Of course, it came with an accompanying film, which was kind of edited to make it look like it was very tumultuous during these recording sessions and that the Beatles were on the verge of breaking up, which they were, but after watching Get Back, it's not quite as bad as that film originally made it meant to look. Now, this album has lots of really great songs. I know a lot of people aren't a big fan of it or aren't a big fan of Phil Spector's production choices, but I really like this album. It starts out very strong with Two of Us, which is kind of one of the last. Um, that one and I've Got a Feeling are kind of the last Lennon McCartney duet songs. I don't know why I just got a random notification there. And then it has I Dig a Pony, which is from the Rooftop Concert. I Me Mine, which is amazing. Um, then it has The Amazing Across the Universe, the John Lennon song. Let It Be, absolutely incredible. Um, Get Back, which is the big album closer with the famous line, I hope we pass the audition. I've Got a Feeling. And I think my favorite song might be The Long and Winding Road, even with all of the string and choir overdubs. I really like that song. It's amazing. But really great way to end the Beatles discography. Yeah, I had to get that one on there for number 5. Let It Be by the Beatles.
Yeah, I think when we did it with 3 albums, I think it was just an honorable mention, I believe, but I don't remember.
Yeah,
But yeah,
because it's number 5.
yeah. My number 4 was originally on my number 1, and yeah, the 3 albums just happen to be. I think is better now, and that is "All Things Must Pass" by George Harrison. Uh, great album. I'm just gonna say off like the best songs on it: "My Sweet
Yeah.
Lord," "Wah Wah," "What Is Life," uh, "Waiting on You All," "Beware of Darkness," the title track. Just amazing songs, one after another. If you were listening to it first for the first time, just listen to the first two discs. Sort of ignore the jam sessions.
I
If
feel
you,
like that's just more like a bonus at the end.
yeah, like if you're interested in jamming, then yeah, listen to it. But if you just want to hear George Harrison's regular music, listen to the first two discs. So yeah, that's my number 4.
Cool. My number 4 is Bridge Over Troubled Water by Simon and Garfunkel. Another career-ending album. But what a way to end your career with that album. The title track, absolutely incredible. Like, probably my favorite song of all time. And then you got The Boxer, which is fabulous. You've got El Condor Pasa, Keep the Customer Satisfied, Cecilia. There's a lot of really great songs on here. My favorite Simon and Garfunkel album, Bridge Over Troubled Water, number 4.
Great pick. My number 3 spot is going to be Led Zeppelin 3. Uh, I don't remember if it was in my list last time. I think it might have been. It might have been number 3 again. I don't remember. It felt like so long since we did that list. Of course, it has the Immigrant Song, which everyone knows and loves, but this album is filled with amazing deep cuts, uh, especially on side two. Gallows Pole, Tangerine, That's the Way, Raw Your Stomp. But side one has a lot of great songs too. Friends with the Celebration Day, which besides a particular song is my least favorite song on the album, but it's still really good. Since I've been loving you's epic, and then Out of the Tiles ending on side one is amazing. But the only song that's preventing it from being my number 2 spot is a little song called "Hats Off to Roy Harper." That song is dreadful. It is garbage. If Hey Hey What Could I Do was on that album, it would have been my number 2 spot.
Honestly, same. My number 3 is also Led Zeppelin 3. I just echo everything you just said. I love the Immigrant Song, Friends, Celebration Day. Since I've Been Loving You is my favorite song on the album. Out on the Tiles is amazing. Gallows Pole, That's the Way, Tangerine, those great acoustic numbers on the second side. But hats off to Roy Harper, does seriously bring this album down from what might be my number 1 album of 1970 if it weren't for that. But there's also my number 2 album is what I would say is a perfect album, so it's going to be my number 2 instead. But instead, we have Led Zeppelin 3 at number 3.
My number 2 spot is going to be the one you just mentioned. Well, before then was Bridge Over Troubled Water. The highs on Led Zeppelin 3, I think, is better than Bridge Over Troubled Water, but there's not a single bad song on Bridge Over Troubled Water.
No.
I'm not as crazy on Frank Lloyd Wright, but it's not a song where I'm like, oh, like what the heck were they thinking when they made this? But
Yeah.
it's not like I'm like, oh, this is their Revolution 9. Like I actually, it's decent, but the
For me, it's Why Don't You Write Me. It's a great song, but it's just one I don't like
yeah,
as much.
yeah, that's sort of the song sort of predicted there. So his Paul Simon's solo career, like the style he was gonna go for when he made his solo
I
albums.
do like Paul Simon's solo albums, though. They're really good.
Yeah. Title track is brilliant. You know, uh, I'd rather be a sparrow than a snail if I could. I love that song. Cecilia and Keep the Customer Satisfied are my two favorite Simon and Garfunkel songs, and they're back to back. Frank Lloyd Wright, like I said, is my least favorite on the album, but still decent enough for me to not dislike it. The Boxer opens up side two great. Love Baby Driver. Only Living Boy in New York is brilliant. I quite like Why Don't We Do It? Why Don't We Do It, bro?
Why don't we do it in the road?
Yeah, 3 hours of sleep. Why Don't You Write Me? I quite like it. I like the sort of like reggae feel on that song. Bye Bye Love. Even though it's a live cut, I still really enjoy it. And Song for the Asking. What a great way to end off the career.
Great. My number 2 album is going to be Elton John's self-titled album. That album is amazing. It's kind of different than his other stuff. I mean, it's similar to like Madman Across the Water, but if you're more used to later Elton, this is more just like piano and then a string arrangement in the back. But I feel like this is probably my favorite Elton John album. Bernie Taupin is at the top of his game lyrically with this album. Elton John's piano playing is great. The songs are just absolutely incredible. You've got Your Song. I love I Need You to Turn To. That one is great. I really like 60 Years On, the first episode at Hyanton, The Border Song, Take Me to the Pilot, Greatest Discovery, The Cage, and The King Must Die is a really great way to end the album. It's just a really cool album. If you're a big fan of singer-songwriter kind of albums, definitely listen to Elton John's self-titled album. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I own it on vinyl now. That's
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Well, honorable mentions. I
Time
limited
to pull up the
myself
list.
to only 10, and I'm gonna say the album, and I'm gonna say my favorite song on the album, like what I think.
Yes, that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna yeah. Uh, Adam Heart Mother by Pink Floyd. I'd say the title track I check out. Madcap Laughs. Um, I don't know honestly. I don't know the track listing, but that's a really good Syd Barrett album. Well, to me, I really like it. Signed, Sealed, Delivered by Stevie Wonder. Heaven Comes to Us. I forgot the one song. Let me quickly look it up because it's a great song.
Signed, sealed, delivered, I'm yours.
Heaven Help Us All. That's a great song. Uh, Morrison Hotel by the Doors.
Oh, that was. Oh wait, yeah, that was 1970, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a great album. Waiting for the Sun. That's a great song. Lola versus Power Man by the Kinks. My favorite song on that album is either Power Man or Money Go Round.
I love the Money Go Round,
Yeah,
but you have to play it right after Top of the Pops to get the full effect on that song.
I'd say Lola, that Top of the Pops and Money Go Round. Like those three songs go perfectly.
Yeah, because Lola is the big hit. Top of the Pops is them making like, okay, now
Money.
you're gonna earn some serious money from your hit, and then Money Go Round is them losing the money to all the executives.
Yeah, that's what I love about it. This like a sort of like a two-way tie because both albums are great. Cosmos Factory and Pendulum. Have you ever seen the rain? And I'd say Who Will Stop the Rain? Those two songs are great.
The Rain songs, not to
Yep.
be confused with The Rain Song by Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, Elton John self-titled. Any song on that album could be my favorite.
They're all
Paranoid
great.
and they're self-titled by Black Sabbath, War Pigs, and the title band Black Sabbath. Moving Fingers by the Hollies, I'd say Questions of the Mind. That's a great song. And yeah, those are my honorable mentions.
Cool. Chicago's self-titled album, Live at Leeds by The Who, if we're talking about live albums. McCartney's first album, Pendulum by Creedence. Sunflower by the Beach Boys. Tumbleweed Connection by Elton John. All Things Must Pass by George Harrison. Lola versus The Money Go Round by the Kinks, Moondance by Van Morrison. I guess that would be all of my honorable mentions.
It's weird. I had Sunflower as my on my list of honorable mentions, but I completely skipped over it. That's how tired I am. Uh,
That's okay.
hey, my number one spot. I already said it was my favorite album of the decade. So it will come no surprise to anyone who watched that video or remembered it would know what the list number one would be, and that will be "Deja Vu" by Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Yes, that album is amazing. Carry On, Teach Your Children, Almost Cut My Hair, Helpless, Woodstock. That's only the first side. You flip over the second side, you got Deja Vu, Our House, 4 plus 20, which is my favorite song on the album and is probably my favorite CSNY song in general. Country Girl, and Everybody I Love You. That whole album is just, it's front loaded and it's back loaded. It's a perfect album, and it's not even in my top five favorite albums of all time. That should tell you how
I'll take it that we need to review that album pretty soon,
yes.
especially
I already
since we
said,
all like the first album.
I say the next. I already said like after a while, and it comes around my turn to pick an album. That was gonna be my album I was gonna pick because I think anyone who appreciates the first album will really love the second album. But yeah.
Okay, my number one top album of 1970 did not change. It is still Cosmo's Factory by Creedence Clearwater Revival, my favorite Creedence album. I love all the songs on this album. They're so good. Ramble Tamble is great. Up Around the Bend, Looking Out My Back Door, Run Through the Jungle, Long as I Can See the Light. I Heard It Through the Grapevine. It's Who'll Stop the Rain. So many classics on this album, and even the ones that are not as well known, they're still good. I actually like Ooby Dooby. It's fun. Oh, Traveling Band. I forgot that's a big one too. Um, My Baby Left Me and Before You Accuse Me are my least favorite, but at least My Baby Left Me has that cool acoustic bass thing at the beginning. But still, great album. I love Creedence Clearwater Revival. They're amazing, and this is my favorite album by them, so it's my number one album of 1970.
Yeah, good choice.
Alright, thank you guys for watching this video here. We are glad that you watched our top 5 albums of 1970, and we will do 1971 next, a very big year for music, and one with lots of great albums. So we will see you then.
See ya.